Hi, this is Brett Ingram, entrepreneur and award-winning product creator, and today I want to help answer the question, can you profit from flipping websites? One characteristic or byproduct, if you will, of digital marketing is collecting stuff. So any of us that are in the digital marketing space, one of the things that happens a lot is we collect things like digital products because we see something that we might want to try, we buy a product that we might want to use, and so we download it and we have it on our computer. Or maybe we have a membership, so we have like a login or a bunch of logins for various websites that we can use as tools and information and things like that. Sometimes we download or we access tools and even websites. Sometimes we can accumulate websites because if we start something and maybe we don't finish it, or we set up a site and we move on to something else, or if, maybe we've got a number of sites and we're trying to get them all to work. Depending on what we're doing, one of sort of the byproducts or the after effects of being involved in any kind of digital marketing is that we do have a tendency to collect digital stuff. Now, like in the attic of an old house, sometimes that stuff is just a bunch of worthless things. It's just maybe some, digital keepsakes or digital things that maybe one day we thought we'd get to, or we used to some extent, but just never sort of brought it to its full realization. But other times we can actually have things that are very valuable if we know how to monetize them. And so that really is the key. When I was starting digital marketing and I was trying to figure out exactly what it is that I wanted to do, one of the things that I came around to in terms of things that I really enjoy and something that I thought also would make a very good business model was to create software. I wanted to create software for marketers that would automate and simplify stuff that we all have to do every single day anyway. And basically, the reason that I came up with that idea is I found myself frustrated by some of the things that needed to be done repetitively or whatever. And I felt like if there was a way to automate this or to simplify it, it'd be so much better because I don't really want to be bothered with doing it all. And so I started to create software that would solve those kinds of problems. And so I've done a variety of different software apps. But the other thing I discovered through the years and through doing business is that one of the things that I really enjoy is actually the development of the software. So while I'm not a coder, I don't sit behind the computer and write the code for the software that I make. I understand what capabilities are in terms of software. And I really enjoy going through the process of actually having it made, figuring out exactly what I want the features to be, what I want the software to be able to do, and how I want it to be able to function and operate. And so the process of sort of laying that out, working with developers to get that created, optimizing it, and getting it to a point where it went from in here to something that's tangible and actually like on the internet that I could go and access and use is super fulfilling. I just find that so exciting and very, very cool. And so to that end, what ended up happening is I'd create a product and then I would get it done and then I would create a sales funnel for it. So obviously I could market it and I would use an affiliate launch model and I would start to sell it. And every launch sort of went the same way. I basically structured it around a 1-week event where it was a launch event and all affiliates would come in and then I'll promote it over that one given week. Well, after that, it would sort of sit. Now, if you know anything about the affiliate marketing industry, affiliates tend to be fickle. They have a lot of things that they can promote. So they'll see yours through, but if the product then is just something that they're rinsing and repeating, keep mailing the same thing, and there's something new, they'll move on to something new because it gives them the opportunity to keep promoting new things for their list. Makes total sense. So what ended up happening is I ended up with a lot of these products that were successful. They launched, they sold really well, customers really liked them. But I kept telling myself what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into optimizing these, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing search engine optimization. I'm going to start, making these into lead funnels and starting to send ads to them. And I'm going to turn them all into like full-blown SaaS businesses. And that was sort of the way that I always envisioned what I was going to do. What ended up happening is every time I started to do anything like that, I was always more drawn to the idea of creating my new software. So I never really got to a point where I was able to optimize any of it or build any of it to a point where it was sort of an ongoing, automatic marketing type system where I was investing back into it, optimizing it and doing all that stuff. I just never enjoyed that as much as the actual creation. So it occurred to me at one point, because the load was getting heavier and heavier on my shoulders. I had all these sites, and every time I created a new one and launched it and a new product, what would happen is I'd feel even more guilt about all the other products that I had already done that are still waiting to be optimized. So I kept telling myself I'm going to optimize these, and I kept not doing it because part of me flat out didn't want to, and the other part of me was just more excited about making something new. And so I never got around to it. And eventually what I realized is I didn't like the burden of having all those sort of unoptimized things on my shoulders. So what I decided to do is figure out how can I set this up in a way where I don't have these things hanging over me. I can focus on new development, but at the same time, I don't just waste all the work I did. I mean, I did a lot of work to create these apps. I did a lot of work to create the sales funnels. I did a lot of work to promote them, and they were successful. So why would I want to just let all that stuff drop and just completely give up on it? Well, I didn't want to. So what I realized is I could actually flip those sites and give them to other people that would then be able to take them and optimize them, and I would benefit because I would generate money that I could use to invest in my new projects. And so what happened was I collected a lot of these sites, and I always expected to optimize them, but I just never got around to it. So once I started to flip them, what I realized is it's very exciting because it's a win-win. I'm able to generate cash, and somebody else is able to get a pre-made product or website that they're able to just build and optimize. A lot of people don't have the skill set or the knowledge, expertise, or interest, like in my case, in building sites from scratch. But if they could get something they thought was pre-made for them, that they would then be able to just step into, optimize, generate traffic for, and profit from, a lot of people are interested in doing that. And there happens to be a website online. There are multiple of these, but the number one is Flippa, Flippa. And it's basically a website flipping website. Or marketplace. So basically you can list your site and you can sell your site as either an auction or you can sell it as like a classified ad, and they will send it, it's visible to the entire marketplace. You can make things private and you can do NDAs and stuff like that if you want, make things confidential if you have something that's really high profile. The other thing that you can do is, because you can list it, you have all these additional promotional services. So if you want them to email their specific insider list, they'll do that. If the site is going to sell for enough and you want a broker, they'll have somebody come in and actually reach out to qualified buyers for your particular product and try to buy it. All of that stuff is really more niche-y. If you have something that's really valuable, chances are, if they're sites that you hadn't really thought much about, they're not probably worth that much. But at the end of the day, they might still be worth something. And I can tell you from my own, I've sold well over a dozen, probably 15 to 20 sites on Flippa at this point. And some went for less than I thought that they would, for sure. Sometimes as the owner, we sort of get married or fall in love with our own products and services and our own products. And so we start to feel as though, I think this thing is really, really good. It's really, really valuable. It should be worth X amount. And in fact, the market says, no, it's just not. I'm just not that interested. I'll give you this for it. Other times, there are things where we may feel like this really isn't worth that much, but whatever. Because we don't find it that valuable, we list it and it sells for a lot more than what we thought. And so the thing of it is, in terms of scope here, is we're talking about the ability, some of these sites just sell for a couple $100. So it's a small amount of money, but it's at least something that allows you to clean off your virtual desk and at least pocket something. But some of them can sell for thousands, some of them can sell for tens of thousands, and some of them even sell for hundreds of thousands or more. And so you don't know until you try. Now look, full disclosure, chances are if you have some dusty old website that you created and nothing much has been done to it, it's not likely going to be worth, antique level here, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's very unlikely. Those are usually sites that are very high traffic. They're already making a profit, things like that. That said, it could still be worth a lot more than what you would think it's worth based on what it has in terms of its assets. So not everything is about how much a site makes in terms of profit. You might say, well, I have these 6 or 7 content sites, but none of them make any money, so they can't really be worth anything. That's not necessarily true. If they have search engine rankings, if they have site age, the longer a site is around, the more valuable it is. So if they're age sites and they have lots of backlinks and other things that make them SEO ready for someone to optimize and monetize, that can be worth a lot more than what you think. So there are a lot of other factors that go into it. And the other part of it, quite frankly, is timing and luck of the draw. I've had sites that literally I listed and I thought they would go right away. And it went, on a 30-day auction, 25 days with maybe 1 or 2 comments and very little else. And then boom, on the 28th day, somebody buys it for the price that I wanted. I've had sites that right out of the gate sell within the first few days as a buy it now. And then I've had sites that I thought were going to sell for sure that got all the way to the end of the auction. The auction ended. It didn't sell. I had to relist it. It didn't sell. I had to relist it, and I've relisted it 3 and 4 times. And then eventually it would sell for, maybe what I wanted or somewhere around what I wanted. Because most of it comes down to timing. If you're looking for a specific buyer for a specific site, and this goes for the higher the value of the site, the more this is even true. If the site is only worth a few $100s, it's probably not going to take a lot of relistings to sell it. But if it's in the multi-thousands of dollars, you may need to relist it a few times. That does happen. Doesn't mean because it didn't sell the first time out that it won't. So what are the steps to actually listing a site, and how do we do this in order to be able to make money with it? Well, first thing you want to do is obviously get a sense of your site. You have your site URL. You want to be able to create sort of a description of it. And the marketplace will guide you through this. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to flippa.com, and then we're going to list the site. And it asks you to start by putting in the URL. Now it will go and fetch a lot of data about the site just from the URL. It will look to see what kind of search engine rankings it's got. It will look to see what it's got for backlinks. It's, various like clout, if you will, in the online world. And it will come up with its own valuation on what it thinks you should be able to get for it. Now, keep this in mind and take this with a grain of salt. Its estimations are not always accurate because they're based on a very simple algorithm. I'll give you a perfect example of this. The sites that I do are largely affiliate marketed sites where it's a launch. So there's a lot of sales in 1 week and a lot that month, and then it trails way off. When you put all that financial data in Flippa, it automatically averages it out over the last 12 months, and it will list it as making, so let's just say for round numbers, for example, let's say a site does $96,000 in sales. Well, if that's in a 1 month period of time, and now they divide it by 8, they're going to say this website makes $8,000 a month. Well, that's not actually true. It made $96,000 in 1 month, and then a lot less the next month, only a couple thousand. So it won't keep selling at that rate, but the implication of someone reading it is, oh, this is making $8,000 a month. Well, a site that makes $8,000 a month consistently is, I can tell you, worth a lot more than a site that makes $96,000 12 months ago. So You can't always go by their valuations, but again, it's a benchmark. It gives you a general idea. And so you list it on Flippa, and what you want to do in the description, this is where a lot of people mess up. I see a lot of descriptions on Flippa. I've seen a lot of sites because I've looked to buy from them as well. You want to put as much detail as possible. This is annoying, I understand. And you're thinking to yourself, why can't I just put the URL up there and it'll work? Well, people want to know if they're going to spend a lot of money, what they're getting. And the more detail you put into it, the better. If you think about this, when you go to buy a car and you're spending a lot of money on a car, if they said, hey, here's a car, 4 wheels, a seat, and an engine, write me a check. Even though you could see the car there, you probably say, wait a minute. What do you mean? What does it have for features? What does it get for gas mileage? What's its warranty like? You'd want to know all these other things. Well, buying a website's no different. And again, it does depend on the price. If your site's selling for $200-300, people aren't going to ask a ton of questions. If you're selling in the thousands, tens of thousands or more, they're going to have questions. They're going to want answers to them. So if you list as much detail as possible, don't assume people will reach out if they have questions. Assume they'll click off your listing if they don't get the answers they need. And try to list as much as possible. Mine is a very extensive listing when I do mine. And I've gotten a lot of compliments on it from people that have looked at the listings and said, I really appreciate all the detail you put in there because I've seen a lot of listings and they don't have a lot of detail. It's probably one of the reasons that almost all the sites I've ever listed have always sold, because of the fact that I give more information if needed, not less. Now, in addition to that, after you add as much detail as possible, what you want to be able to do is, if you really care about the value, because another question I get is, well, Brett, what happens if I list it though, and I have a certain amount in mind and then it doesn't sell for that? Like, do I lose my site? Do I have to sell it? You could do just like with eBay, right? Any kind of auction, you could put in a reserve price. And so you could put in a general auction, or you can list it as a classified. If you list it as a classified, you put down the price. People can bid, and you aren't obligated to take any of those bids. You can, but you don't have to. People can bid different prices, and you can put down what you're hoping to get. Then you get the option to reject or approve every single offer. If you do it as an auction, it runs for a certain period of time. At the end of the time, it goes to the highest bidder if it's met the reserve. So if you put in a reserve value and it doesn't get above the reserve, you aren't obligated to sell it. You can make a counteroffer to everybody who was interested in it, or you can accept the offer, or you can relist it. And so you can always list a reserve. Obviously, like with anything else, if you have a reserve and the higher the reserve is, the fewer bids you're going to get in general, because people are discouraged by that. They want to know if they bid, they're going to win. That said, I always use a reserve on mine, and I've sold them all up to this point that I've listed. So take that with a grain of salt. But you can do it as an auction, or you can do it as a classified. And then the other thing that's really important is, what you'll notice is there's two different ways people can reach out to you. They could send you messages directly, so it's just between you and them, or they could post comments on your listing. It's super important that you check your listing at a minimum every 2 days. And anytime there's a comment, and anytime that there's a message, that you respond to it. Again, if people are taking the time to ask you questions, they're interested. But a lot of times people have questions. And I've had people ask me question after question after question to the point they're apologizing. And I'll say, don't apologize. If you have these questions, I'd rather have you know the information up front. So when you buy it, you know you're getting what you want. And I have confidence that you're going to be happy with the purchase, right? That's what we all want. So take the time. Those people are telling you they're very interested. That's why they're engaging with you. So take time to respond to all the comments, respond to all the messages. And I do conference calls. I have people all the time that want to jump on a Zoom or a Skype or a phone call to ask questions. I always do it. Because again, you can talk through a lot more issues a lot faster. You can feel them out as a buyer, and you can also answer any of the questions that they might have to make sure they're confident in the sale. The more you engage, the higher the likelihood that your sites sell. And if it doesn't sell, just relist it for free. It doesn't mean it won't sell. Again, I've sold well over a dozen sites, probably closer to 20, and I can tell you that I've had a number of them not sell in the first auction period. I've relisted them, same price, and they've sold in the second or third time because it's all a game of timing. Now, if you price it that's too high for what it's worth, it will never sell no matter how many times you list it. So you have to kind of feel this out a little bit. But at the same time, don't be discouraged. If you get a lot of interest, but no one totally bites and buys it, relist it at the same price, it's likely that you'll get there. You know, if no one's even interested at the price you've got, no one's bidding, it's probably priced too high. So at the very least, even if your sites don't sell, it will give you a sense of their value, right? You'll get a sense of what the market thinks that they're worth. The other thing is, and this is sort of a side little benefit, but it's interesting, you can also use Flippa to find investors or partners. So if you're trying to build something out and you're looking for a financial investor, or you're looking for a partner to help you run something, I've had offers for both. Investments in my sites, partners to partner with me. And you can do exactly the same thing by putting them up in the classified section on Flippa. Auctions aren't as good for those. Classifieds are better, but you can do it either way. And it becomes an easy win-win to offload your unused sites and generate profit at the same time. So the takeaway here is in digital marketing, it's easy to collect a lot of digital stuff because the footprint is small. We can fit it all on our hard drive in our computer and it's stored easily. Oftentimes we end up with more stuff than we can ever optimize or see through to completion, even if we have the greatest intentions, and that's what we mean to do. So it may make sense to flip our websites. We turn an unused digital asset into cash, and the buyer gets a pre-made website ready to grow and optimize. So it's a real win-win. Even if we don't have websites ready to flip right now, it's still great to know there's a profitable exit strategy when we do.